to go? We have a 3, 2, 1. We're all live.
Good evening and welcome to the December Mansfield Shire Council meeting. I'd like to welcome my fellow councillors and council officers and everyone from the general public who has tuned in tonight. I'll now start by calling on each councillor and ask them to verbally confirm that they can see all councillors and hear the proceedings. Councillor Holcomb.
I can see all councillors and hear the proceedings, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Holcomb. Councillor Rabi.
I can hear the proceedings and see all councillors and council officers.
Thanks, Councillor Rabi. Councillor Sladden.
I can see all the councillors and council officers and can hear the proceedings. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Sladden. And Councillor Webb.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I can hear the proceedings and see all councillors and council officers.
Thanks, Councillor Webb. I'll now ask all councillors to raise their hands that they could see all councillors and hear them. Thank you. Madam CEO, do we have any apologies tonight for the meeting?
No apologies, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I'll now read the statement of commitment and call on each councillor to confirm their commitment. As councillors of Mansfield Shire, we are committed to ensuring our behaviour meets the standards set by the Mansfield Shire Councillor Code of Conduct and Councillor Charter. We will at all times faithfully represent and uphold the trust placed in us by the community. Councillor Holcomb.
I confirm my commitment, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Rabi.
I confirm my commitment.
Councillor Sladden.
I confirm my commitment.
And Councillor Webb.
I confirm my commitment.
I'll now ask Deputy Mayor Councillor Rabi to recite Council's acknowledgement to country.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Our meeting is being held on the lands of the Trungurong people and we wish to acknowledge them as traditional owners. We would also like to pay our respects to their elders, past and present, and Aboriginal elders of other communities who may be here today.
Thanks, Councillor Rabi. Item number 6 is disclosure of conflict of interests. I'll now call on each councillor and ask them to declare whether they have any conflicts of interest in the agenda items tonight. Councillor Holcomb.
No conflicts of interest, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Holcomb. Councillor Rabi.
I'd like to declare a conflict of interest in an agenda item in the confidential minutes, and once we open the confidential meeting, I'll further discuss that conflict of interest, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, noted. Thanks, Councillor Rabi. Councillor Sladden.
I have no conflict of interest in relation to any of tonight's agenda items.
And Councillor Webb.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I have no conflict of interest in relation to any of tonight's agenda items.
Item 7 is the confirmation of minutes. Councillors, can I have a recommendation for item 7? Councillor Webb.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Motion being that the minutes of the Mansfield Shire Council meeting held on 22nd of November 2022 be confirmed as an accurate record.
Can I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Sladden. Councillors, I'll put that to a vote. All those in favour? Motion is carried. Item number 8 is representations, and we have a petition being received from Edward Adamson to amend the housing scheme. We have representations to this petition. We have 3 representations tonight, so I'd now like to ask, I think it's Caroline Sugate to come in. Hi, Caroline, can you hear me?
I can, James. Sorry, just jumping a line.
Welcome to the Mansfield Shire December meeting, Carolyn. You're talking on behalf of the petition presented to Council this evening by Edward Adamson. So you've got 3 minutes to talk to the petition, and then if there's any questions from councillors, we'll ask you. I'll let you know when you've got about 15 seconds left on your 3 minutes, if you make it that far. So welcome, and away you go.
Thank you, James. I just wanted to check that Dean and Ed were keen to just touch base on their side as well. I just want to check that they're able to join. Yeah,
they are. They're going to present after you.
Great. Yep, fantastic. I just want to make sure that. So no, that's fine. Yep. So my name is Carolyn. Sustainability Mansfield is a registered association in the area where we basically seek to enable better sustainability outcomes across the region, including renewables, energy, housing and waste, and particularly looking after our biodiversity in the area. We've had monthly meetings. We basically provide a safe place for local people to ask and to learn from each other around all things sustainable. So any of those types of things, and very much driven by the community and I guess the needs of the community. Housing being obviously a critical one of those at the moment. Next year, we look forward to having more events and ways that the region can become more environmentally and socially conscious. We really want to thank Councillor Holcomb for his interest in our petition. We've had a conversation with him already. I guess what we're looking at is interest in innovative housing solutions and housing options in the region, and what councillors are doing and the council are doing to address the urgent need for affordable, social and diverse housing options, understanding that there is limitations within what the council can and can't do. I guess the understanding that the impact on the local community for essential workers particularly, and I look forward to hearing what Dean's going to say about that, and local families is immense, and could have a long-standing effect on the types and even whether families can afford to reside in this region, risking the community feel and I guess the rich generational diversity that the area can provide with better housing options and more diverse housing options, rather than just the continued urban subdivisions that is the current status quo. These high-end nature developments do not include affordable housing options for local workers, given the wages in the area. The urgent need for local teachers, nurses is essential for the region to sustainably grow and to sustain the economic activity and the businesses that are essential for the region to be able to prosper. The importance of the diversity in housing is not just for continued subdivisions that don't necessarily represent the diverse needs of different communities and different people within the community. I met with Helen Haynes around the housing affordability, with Councillor Sutton was also present. I guess there was a stark difference in the views across the community, and I think that these should be considered when any type of housing options are explored, and that those that have lived in the quiet hamlets of these outer reaching areas for the last 30 years, they don't necessarily want more housing, but I guess as a family person and having children in the area, I think that families have a right to be able to have affordable housing without necessarily high mortgage rates over their heads, and looking at whether the outer reaching areas are part of the solution, not necessarily putting all the pressure onto Mansfield, which has limitations in terms of its infrastructure. There's families that are currently commuting all the way from Alexandra daily to access schools for children with special needs, as they cannot find suitable housing within the school bus zones from Ancona to Tolmi. I think that housing affordability is a critical topic for the councils to consider.
Sorry, Caroline, could you just wind it up now? Thanks.
I was on my last sentence. How's that?
Oh, so housing affordability.
Okay. No, that's fine. Housing affordability is a critical topic, and we're imploring the councillors to consider this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much for that presentation. And sorry to cut you off on the last sentence. I wasn't sure how much longer you were going to go forth, though. So, councillors, do we have any questions of Ms. Sugate? Councillor Holcomb.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Caroline, thanks for that. Just a couple of things I have about the petition itself. I don't know how closely you've looked at this petition, but there's a few things there which I find rather odd in the petition itself. 16% of the people who wrote on that petition are outside Victoria. Well, outside Victoria, one in Mumbai. So you wonder how relevant our petition is to those 16% that are outside Victoria. There's a couple of people in there who have signed it twice of the 107 signatures, and 15% are Bulla related and associated with Mount Bulla ski lifts, I think it is. Can you tell me what the connection is? Because I wouldn't have thought up there they do have a housing. I wouldn't have thought they have a housing issue up there at all. So I've got a few things with the accuracy, or that's not the right word, legitimacy of the petition to a certain extent, with some of the where some of these signatories have come from, and also the fact that 15% are Bulla related, and I'm more interested to know what their connection is with. I know the connection with the Shire, but I don't believe that they have a housing issue up there. In fact, quite the opposite for staff.
Yeah, so two things. I guess online petitions, you never can control who does sign them, and the online petition was only shared within our networks and our immediate contacts. It wasn't shared, publicly beyond the region, but obviously some people, may choose to do that. We also petitioned local businesses. Ed and I spent some time in Mansfield, and the paper petition is 100% Mansfield residents and businesses. And so I think that that's a really good representation. Not to, obviously discredit the other people. And I think a lot of people are very concerned about housing generally. I'm part of a national working group on this, and I think that the issue is a national issue, not just a Mansfield issue. And I think your comment about Bulla, I think they definitely do have a housing issue. And certainly in the ski season, where there's a very high level of lack of accommodation, affordable accommodation for local workers there. So I think a lot of people in Bulla would love to see something off the mountain where they could stay in an affordable way and still be able to access, good work opportunities in the snow.
Thank you.
Thanks, councillors. Any other questions? No. Okay, in that case, thanks very much for your presentation, Carolyn. And we'll now move to Dean Bell. Dean, can you hear me?
Thank you, James.
Dean.
G'day.
Hello, Dean.
How you going?
Can you hear me, Dean?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. We can now we can see you. Welcome
Good.
to the Mansfield Shire Council meeting. Dean, you're speaking to the item number 8, which is a petition that's been presented to council tonight on affordable housing. You've been in this position before of a meeting. You know that representations, you get 3 minutes, and I'm going to cut you off at close to 3 minutes. So welcome along, and away you go.
Okay, thanks very much. And I've run back to the office because in an old-fashioned way I went up to the chambers. How silly. Okay, staff accommodation. As you guys know, it's not a problem that's been hiding under a rock. We know about the numbers from Byron Bay, from destination towns like Lorne, Bright, Mornington Peninsula, where we've got staff living in tents, caravan parks, sleeping in cars, couch surfing, which just does nothing for the stability of those people, let alone for the stability and sustainability of those businesses. Here in Mansfield, it's not just a tourism and hospitality challenge, and we'll come back to hospitality in a moment. I've been on the phone with people like vacuum trucks, spent quite a bit of time on the phone with Cameron from the hospital to get a better understanding of their challenges too, thinking, is it just about the situation that we have where hospitality, some roles are not as well paying as others. but it's a bigger picture. Now, some quick quote, over 600,000 temporary visa holders left Australia between December 19 to May 21. This has been something that's really impacted. It's made it, it's contributed to a very, very tight market to attract quality candidates to any job. And there's no point in not getting quality. And especially if accommodation's not available or it's too expensive. In a kind of survey, I was there with T&E the other day, who've been doing a lot of work on all of this. And they're saying that 41 overall businesses feeling very challenged in recruitment, over 60% in hospitality, even higher in regional areas. So we know that people like Coffee Merchant and ourselves have lost key people when they haven't been able to get their housing on board, and there's been a huge cost. So all these businesses, yourselves included, have lost numbers of candidates due to the housing shortage. Huge cost in recruiting, onboarding, training, and every time we take on someone who doesn't stay, the cost escalates even more. And it'd be interesting to see, if you were to quantify what it's cost the council in the last couple of years, I think it'd be pretty frightening. In our business and others, we've had to reduce our operating hours and our scope. We have bought a 2-bedroom flat, we've rented a 4-bedroom flat, and we're doing a whole lot of other things to keep the right staff. In town, we've got people who are working from home buyers who've moved up here. And of course, one person was a teacher or a nurse, the other person might work in retail or hospitality. That's no longer the case for many of these people. So it is, this is kind of impacting on us all. The solution is there. How to get about unlocking that accommodation, I don't have the answer. That's what you guys do. But I do know that there are there are lots of places out there that are reasonable accommodation, and people are just being really, really mindful of not renting them out or going public without getting into trouble. Thanks very much. 2 seconds left. That'll be it. Bye.
Thanks, Dean. Now, councillors, any councillors like to ask Dean questions? Councillor Sladden.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Bell, thank you for your presentation, and also Carolyn, if Ms. Suggett, if you're still there. Mr. Bell, would you have any idea in terms of loss of revenue as a result of, I just noted down your reduced hours, the fact that you've had to buy a 2-bedroom flat, etc., with this staffing issue, which may or may not be related to housing shortage or affordable housing? Oh. Would you have any idea or a guesstimate of financial loss to your business? This is pieces of string, but there are other people far more qualified than me that have been doing some surveys on this. Tourism Northeast has done quite an extensive survey using a third party. I was invited to go up to Beechworth the other day and do a presentation with some other operators from around the region, and we presented to Treasury, to regional RDB and Department of Jobs precincts and regions. And the quote from T&E for the Hume region was losses in excess of $150 million of revenue around the region. That is largely attributed to the recruitment and flowing on, tied in with that, the accommodation. So, I'm happy to get back to the Shire and kind of, do some pencil work for ourselves, but I'm really mindful of it not just being, I'm a tall poppy in town. I get that. I can understand that. Yeah, but I'm speaking with, Cameron or so, at the hospital, they've got, trying to get the kind of people that they're having to attract. They're really struggling to kind of fit them into our kind of, into larger houses, share houses and other things like this. It is more than just about restaurants, cafes and pubs. It is about what happens if we can't get the nurses in town and those people, and what the knock-on effect is to our bigger picture. Yep, no, I certainly understand that, Mr. Bell, and I'm not asking you to, give any commercial in confidence. I'd happily, pardon me for interrupting, I'd happily give numbers, but I'm just really mindful that this is something where, I talk with other business operators, and I don't want to ever be seen as, oh, Dean Bell's got an issue, why maybe he got to sort it out another way. I'm, I think you guys know me well enough. It's about what impacts on the community itself.
Yeah, no. Certainly accept that, Mr. Bell, because, you know, everybody's walked up High Street and seen the sign, sorry, closed due to lack of staff or something like that. So, yep, more than aware with that. Now, I do want to put you on the spot. Just winding back towards your ending up your presentation. You said the solution is out there, but you don't have the answers. It's up to us people. What is the solution that you could give to us people?
Well, I do believe, and I don't have figures on this. You know, we know anecdotally how many people do have, you know, that kind of shed that they lived in while they were building their houses. You know, we know people who've got, you know, the granny flat out there that was built, you know, kind of 30 or 40 years ago when there wasn't quite as much focus on what you could or couldn't do. You know, and it was a little more relaxed, I'll put it that way. And, you know, and so trying to have a look and say, are there some ways? Is there a mechanism by which we can have a look and how some of those things can be unlocked so that we can, you know, kind of help those, you know, help unlock that asset so we can get people in. I mean, at the moment on the rental market, there are 5 houses for rent in Mansfield. You know, the cheapest one I saw there is 450, going through to kind of, you know, 620. Well, if somebody's paying 620, that's 36,000 a year, including overheads. You know, they've got to be earning 120 to kind of keep below the 30% mark. You know, so it doesn't mean, you know, we're not going to get cheap housing from expensive housing, but we can unlock assets that are around the place.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your response. Thank you.
Cheers.
No further questions, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Sladden. Councillors, any further questions of Mr. Bell? No, it doesn't appear so. So Good. In that case, thanks very much, Dean, for your presentation and for answering the questions that were asked. Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you all.
I'll now call in Mr. Ed Adamson. Ed, can you hear me? All I can hear is the rain on the roof. Mr. Adamson.
Mr. Mayor, while we're waiting for Mr. Adamson to come in, do we have Councillor Holcomb online with us, or has he dropped out?
Good point. Yeah. Councillor Holcomb, are you able to respond? Mr. Adamson,
yes.
Are you online? Yeah? Yes. Oh, it's James Tean here, Ed.
Yes, James.
I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Oh, okay. I'll see if I can help that.
No, I'm here, Paul. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Thanks, Councillor Holcomb. You're back. You did vanish for a little while. But anyway, you're back now, and so is Ed Adamson. Ed, welcome to the Mansfield Shire Council December meeting. You've lodged the petition, and you're about to represent that petition to councillors. You have 3 minutes to speak to council, and then we will ask questions of you. If there is any, if you wouldn't mind, if you could stay still, if possible. That's better. Perfect. Yeah, you're moving around a bit. You're like a target. All right. So look, if you'd like to start your 3 minutes now, and I'll let you know when you're close to the end of that.
Thank you, Councillor Tean. Look, I'm Ed Adamson. I'm Secretary of Sustainability Mansfield, and we have had several meetings around the issue of housing, social housing, but particularly seasonal worker housing, and we are urging council to find some solutions. We know it's a difficult problem, and I've had both planning meetings over trees, but also over a whole range of issues around subdivision and so on. We don't think that the problems of housing shortage in the spheres that I've mentioned, social housing and seasonal worker housing, particularly seasonal worker family housing, are going to be met by doing more subdivisions in the conventional sense, even with small lots of land in the mix. It doesn't change the crisis. And I know I've just rented out a house in Mansfield, which is a 4-bedroom house, and the rental is very substantial, difficult for single people to meet, let alone families. And the idea of sharing accommodation is a good one, but how to educate people to do that is something maybe council ought to look at. I want to say my appreciation to Senior Planner Melissa Crane and also to the new CEO for the comprehensive way they've answered letters that I've written. I understand from the CEO's recent letter to me, which was the 25th of the 11th, that that council officers are fairly constrained in what they can do and what they can lobby for and how they can affect change within the state planning ordinance. However, I put it to you that councillors are in a much more flexible position in that they can go lobby both the local government association, but more particularly, they can direct lobby the state government and federal government for that matter, and should do so. And I note that my colleague, the President of Sustainability Mansfield, has talked to Helen Haynes, and she's probably said something about that. Thank you, CEO, for the comprehensive replies to our queries. And we would like now for you to start stretching boundaries. We know there are constraints, but my experience in the Victorian Public Service, both in the Soil Conservation Authority and later on as Information Services Manager of the what used to be the Scoresby Research Institute, which was an amalgam of a whole lot of research institutes. I found that if you push boundaries, you actually can get some substantial results. So I advocate that you start pushing boundaries and see how well things work. Particularly, we note that there have been possible accommodations on rural land and semi-rural land where people have been told they can't even park a caravan, let alone occupy it for a season. And we think...
Ed, I'll have to ask you to you're over time now, so if you could just come to an end.
So to wrap up, we would seek that some of these options for the time being could be recognised and be flexibly addressed by council. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Adamson. Thanks very much for your presentation. Councillors, do we have any questions of Mr. Adamson? Councillor Rabi.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor, and thanks, Ed Adamson, for coming along to present to council today. It's not the first time that you've presented to us. You've been here before, especially with respect to holding up house blocks that were on the market for $176,000. They went.
Councillor Rabi, I've just got to ask you what the point of your question is in relation to the petition.
Okay, so
you seem to be straying off the mark there.
No, all right. I'm not going off the mark. I'm trying to make a point that by holding up subdivisions, the first home owners are having to pay more. They've lost their first homeowner grant, so they stay in rental accommodation. Thus, there is no more rental accommodation and there's no more affordable houses on the market. So I'm just wondering what your comments would be around that, Ed, and your view on having smaller plots in those subdivisions, whether that's something that council should look at or whether council should stay, looking at having larger blocks in our town. What's your thoughts on that?
With respect, Councillor Raby, the issue of the holding up of the permit for 53 Hayden Lane, I think it was, actually in James's Court, was an issue of native vegetation retention, and it was a failure of council and DWELP in assessing that properly that led to me taking it to VCAT. And with there, to one councillor's surprise, I can report that we had 3 preliminary hearings with VCAT, and that matter has resolved with some benefits to the town in the long term by me making an off VCAT agreement with the developer. And you can ask me more about that at another time if you like. But on the question of size of lots, I think it's a good idea to have a range of lot sizes. It'd be great if lots could be cheaper for people to buy first homes, but it doesn't really address the point that I'm talking about, which is the people who come here for 4 to 6 months to work, and the people who are in need of social housing and who can't afford to buy. And I take your point about rental. Sure, rental is diabolically short, and in large measure that is due to Airbnbs and such like. So it's very difficult. But also there's a matter of, do we need such big houses? Why can't we have small houses, tiny houses even? Because they're perfectly good for accommodation. And you'll note that even caravan accommodation now, they have their own showers and toilets, and they can dump toilet waste in especially a receptacle that council provides. So I think a lot of those issues are already addressed.
Can I ask another question, Ed, while I've got you? More on the idea of smaller blocks. So do you envisage developers building perhaps townhouses, 2 smaller houses on one block with a party wall to relieve the issue of affordable housing within our the town boundary?
I think we have several examples of those opposite Jenkins is it Kitchen Street or Logan Street, perhaps. It's feasible, and I don't see anything wrong with that. And I would like to see a second or even a third story put over the car parks in Early Street and the new 100-spot car park behind the shops in High Street, because that would solve a lot of the immediate locational problems for seasonal workers and people who come here and try to get established.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. No further questions.
Councillor Raby. Councillors, any other questions? Ms. Adams, I have one question. You talk about the shortage of workers, shortage of housing for seasonal workers. Seasonal workers, are you referring to workers that work up on Mount Buller when you talk about seasonal workers, or who in particular are you referring to where there's a shortage of housing in terms of seasonal workers?
Yes. There are a lot of young people and people with young families now who work maybe at Mount Buller, but maybe in our district for the summer season with industries that are the tourist industries around Lake Eildon and so on. There are people who are seasonal fruit pickers, and I know some of those were living in tents and probably still are from time to time. I think we could do better than that, and we ought to do better than that. And even when I went strawberry picking at age 17 in Monbulk, we had some sheds to live in. And we're not even doing that in many cases. And where accommodation is provided, it's often provided at $150 a week with 10 people crammed in one house. That's very poor.
Where can you give an example of where that's happened?
Yes, with the Tomato Fresh, Murphy Fresh, there were many people crammed in one house, and that happened over a number of years.
Right. You mentioned fruit pickers. So, what the fruit in is that what you were talking to? I imagine.
Yes, I was thinking of Friday's Cherry Farm. There were a lot of people pitching tents and having caravans with no toilet facilities out there several years ago.
Right. Okay. Yep. Thanks for that. Any other questions, councillors?
Yeah.
No, in that case, thanks very much, Mr. Adams, for your presentation and for answering our questions. And now I'd like to call on a recommendation for this petition, councillors. Councillor Webb.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Motion being that council receive and note the petition from Edwin Adamson to amend the housing scheme to allow second additional dwellings to assist with the urgent labour and housing crisis across Mansfield Shire, and refer the petition to the Chief Executive Officer for consideration and a response to be tabled at a future council meeting.
Thanks, Councillor Webb. Can I have a seconder to that motion? Councillor Sladden. Councillor Webb, do you wish to speak to them? Councillor Webb, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Sladden, a seconder.
Only in that we do note the concerns, and we note and accept the petition. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sladden. I'll now put the motion to. Oh, sorry. Was there any other councillors that like to speak to that motion? No, in that case, I'll put it to a vote. All those in favour of this motion? Motion is carried. Thanks very much for the presenters tonight and their representations. We'll move on to item number 10, which is the Mayor's report. Councillors, can I have a recommendation? Yeah. Councillor Rabi.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. That council receives the Mayor's report for the period of the 22nd of November 2022 to the 8th of December 2022. There's a typo in here. So it's 2022. Thanks.
Noted. Thanks, Councillor Rabi. Can I have a seconder to that motion? Councillor Holcomb. All those in favour of the motion? The motion is carried. We now have reports from council appointed representatives as item number 11. The Australia Day Awards Committee. Councillors, it has met and there is a motion going to council tonight in the confidential section of the meeting as to who are the recipients of those awards. So that's about as much as I'd like to say. Do the other representatives of that committee want to add anything? Very good. The Mansfield Shire CEO Employment Matters Committee has not met since the last meeting. Goulburn Murray Climate Alliance. Councillor Webb?
We've not met, Mr. Mayor.
Not met. The Hume Regional Local Government Network has not met since our last meeting. The Shire Audit and Risk Committee has not met. The Municipal Association of Victoria has not met since our last meeting. That'd be correct, Councillor Sladden, wouldn't it? Councillor Rabi, you're the representative.
Indeed correct.
Okay, and the Rural Councils of Victoria have not met. Is that correct, Councillor Sladden, since the last meeting?
That's correct, Mayor. Yes.
All right. Could I have a recommendation, please, councillors? Councillor Rabi.
Yeah, the council note the verbal reports provided by councillors in relation to their representation on external committees.
Thanks, Councillor Rabi. Councillor Can I have a seconder? Councillor Sladden. All those in favour of the recommendation? Councillor Holcomb, are you able to hear us? Councillor Holcomb, just having trouble. Is anyone else been able to hear or see him moving? No. Okay.
He's frozen. I think his connections.
Right.
No,
Madam
must be
CEO,
down. He's dark and mute. Yep.
he's obviously, yeah. Chelsea, are you able to give him a call to see perhaps if he's what's happened there?
Can do. I'll give him a bell now.
Before we move on.
I'll just provide a weather update, Mayor, if you don't mind. A very
Sure,
strong
Tony.
hailstorm just passed through Bonnydoon, so look out, it's on its way.
Coming our way, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks for that, Councillor Bunn.
Careful.
Well, he's on the phone. I can see him now. If you take yourself off mute, Councillor Holcomb.
Councillor Holcomb is just voting to item 11 now, just to the motion, and then he's going to try and connect onto a different internet stream, so he will disappear and then we'll bring him back.
Okay.
But we can finish off item 11.
Yep, that's good. Thanks, Councillor Holcomb. You're in favour of the motion. That's good.
And it's going in and out. My reception's going in and out, so it's not good.
Okay. Can we actually get him live via phone, Chelsea? Is that possible? So we can he can vote on the motions by speaking as well. Is that possible? Can we do that?
I don't see why not.
Madam CEO, is that acceptable if he's has he?
Think he has to be seen. Has to be seen as well as heard. Yeah, so we might just have to persevere. We've got him at the moment.
Okay, we'll push along. Yeah, well, let's get to the item 13, Chief Executive Officer's report. Councillors, do we have any questions in relation to that? Councillor Rabi.
Yes, to be able to see him.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. And I'm just trying to find it. I'm sorry for this, CEO. I'll give you a heads up which page it's on. Here we go. Page 10 of your report, which is the planning applications determined. Got 8 to 10 Station Street and 2 to 4 Station Street. I believe the 2 to 4, the development of the land for a convenience restaurant, that may have been lapsed or withdrawn rather than issued. Is that correct?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. I might just ask the General Manager Infrastructure to confirm that.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. The determination date of 9th of 11th should have been put into the column to the right, being the lapsed column or withdrawn column. The application was withdrawn from council, so there is no current application nor a permit issued for a convenience restaurant at 2 to 4 Station Street.
Sure, that will be met with delight within the community. Thanks very much for the update, Ms. Crane. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Any further questions? Being no further questions, I'd like a recommendation. Thanks. Councillor Webb.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Motion being that Council receive and note the Chief Executive Officer's report for the period 22 November 2022 to 7th December 2022.
Thanks, Councillor Webb. Can I have a second to that motion? Councillor Sladden. I'll put that motion to a vote. All those in favour of the motion?
There he is.
Councillor Holcomb, can you hear?
That's why we should have face-to-face meetings, maybe, Mr. Mayor.
Well, he'd be an absentee if he was anyway. He's in Western Australia, so yes.
I believe that's the same time zone as Bali, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks for that update, Councillor Rabi. Councillor Holcomb, come in. See, Councillor Rabi, if you hadn't asked that question, we would have got him. We've been able to move on. But it was a good question and it was well worth the response. So we'll now just sit tight for a minute. And Councillor, do you want to give us another update on the weather?
Yeah.
Councillor Bunn.
Time zones don't help.
Here he is, quick.
I'm here.
Quick.
So I'll put the recommendation 13, which is the to the vote. Councillor Holcomb, did you hear that? All those in favour?
Yes.
Right, great. Motion is carried. Thank you. Item number 13.2.1 is C54 Mans rezoning at 104 Dead Horse Lane, Mansfield. The responsible officer is the Acting General Manager of Infrastructure and Planning, Miss Melissa Crane. Melissa, you have an update on the on this agenda item for us.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So in the intervening time since the report was written for the agenda, council officers and the proponent have met and worked with the EPA and the two submitters to the amendment. And it has actually resulted in all objections being withdrawn to the amendment. And I am, for one, very grateful for the time and effort that the objectors particularly put into listening and working with council officers and the proponent to find a resolution. Very grateful that they were willing to work so closely with us to do that and provide an opportunity for this amendment to proceed without going to a panel. The recommendation in the council agenda refers to a panel, but in the with the resolution of the submissions, I'd like to propose an alternative recommendation from council officers in terms of not needing to undertake that process anymore, being that council having prepared and exhibited Amendment C54 to the Mansfield Planning Scheme under Section 19 of the Planning and Environment Act 1987, it being the Act, and having considered all submissions to Amendment C54 under Section 22 of the Act, resolves to adopt Amendment C54 to the Mansfield Planning Scheme in accordance with Section 29 of the Act, adopting the amendment with changes as requested to the explanatory report by the Environment Protection Authority, and to submit the Amendment C54 to the Mansfield Planning Scheme together with the prescribed information to the Minister for Planning in accordance with Section 31 of the Act. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Ms. Crane. Councillor Sladden, you have a question?
It's not a question, Mr. Mayor, but I'm prepared. I have a copy of that recommendation in front of me and I'm prepared to move that recommendation.
All right, I'll just check if there's any queries or questions to Ms. Crane before we put that motion. Councillor Rabi.
Yeah, my question, Ms. Crane, is how many people were originally objectors, and following on from that, are they completely okay with withdrawing their objection and they feel comfortable with that outcome? Is that correct?
Yes, certainly. Through you, Mr. Mayor, their concerns weren't particularly with the rezoning per se. They had some concerns about, as I think everyone is at the moment, with how floodwaters and drainage are working in the area. Part of the way we've worked through is to explain and work through the process that the owner of the land will need to go through to develop the site into the future, which will include full construction of the appropriate infrastructure to deal with stormwater and the issues that are associated with any flooding on that site, where houses may or may not be built on it in terms of the levels they'll have to be built to, and those sort of parameters that will be part of the planning permit process that would follow on from the rezoning. So the work was involved in explaining and working through how this will roll out in the long run and providing them with a lot more information in that space. And that was a really valuable process for everyone.
Sure. And how many were there?
There were 2 objectors.
Only 2. Right.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thanks.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Rabi. Any further queries of Ms. Crane? In that case, I'll ask for a motion in relation to this item. Councillor Sladden.
Would you like me to read it again, Mayor?
Yeah.
Okay.
That'd be good.
Okay, hang on. Okay, the recommendation or the motion is the council, 1, having prepared and exhibited Amendment C54 to the Mansfield Planning Scheme under Section 19 of the Planning and Environment Act 1987, that is the Act, and A, having considered all submissions to Amendment C54 under Section 22 of the Act, resolves to B, adopt Amendment C54 to the Mansfield Planning Scheme in accordance with Section 29 of the Act, adopting the amendment with changes as requested to the explanatory report by the Environment Protection Authority. And C, submit Amendment C54 to the Mansfield Planning Scheme together with the prescribed information to the Minister for Planning in accordance with Section 31 of the Act.
Thanks, Councillor Sladden. Can I have a seconder to that motion? Councillor Rabi. Thanks, Councillor Rabi. Councillor Sladden, do you wish to speak to this motion?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mayor. Firstly, I would like to acknowledge the work of Ms. Crane and her department in meeting with the objectors and having resolved their issues to the point where they have withdrawn all of their objections. Although the EPA has asked for some minor wording changes in the explanatory report, it does not alter the proposed ordinance of the C54, and this is an issue that I'm pleased has been finally resolved. And I'll just add, sorry, Mayor, that under circumstances, our planning department with illness and staffing issues, the amount of work and the volume of applications that they're getting, it's very pleasing to see that results are still being achieved. So again, well done, Ms. Crane and her team. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Sladden. Councillor Rabi, a seconder, would you like to speak?
Yeah, just briefly, just to the community generally, we've got a very open and approachable acting GM of infrastructure and planning, Melissa Crane and her team. And usually we can get to a win-win situation in these things, which doesn't hold us up and cost us a lot of money. So please reach out and keep talking to the community. And thank you to you and your team, Ms. Crane, for a job really well done when I know you're really struggling for staff and with a bit of COVID happening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Rabi. Any other councillors wish to speak to this motion? Councillor Webb.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just to mirror the comments of Councillor Rabi there, a huge win for us as a council and the community. A collaborative approach is always better. And we're seeing time and time again that once we have a grasp of what the issues are, we're usually able to resolve them in a mutually beneficial way. So it's a great outcome. Well done to the acting GM infrastructure and her team.
Thanks, Councillor Webb. Anyone else? No, in that case, I'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favour of the motion? Motion is carried. Item 13.3.1 on the agenda is the Regional Tourism Memorandum of Understanding. The responsible officer is possibly Tanya. Is Tanya coming in? Madam CEO? No, of course not. No.
Sorry, I think Nola was available to answer questions on this one, or myself. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, sorry, I should have picked that up. Yep, the acting GM of Community and Corporate Services, Nola Bales, is in her area. So, councillors, do we have any questions in relation to this MOU? No? Okay. Can I have a motion in relation to this agenda item? Councillor Raby.
Yeah, I'd like to move that council receives and endorses the Regional Tourism Memorandum of Understanding between Tourism North East and the Mansfield Shire Council, and authorises execution of the document by our CEO, Chief Executive Officer.
Thanks, Councillor Raby. A seconder to that motion? Councillor Webb. Councillor Raby, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Webb as seconder.
No, thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone else wish to speak to it? In that case, I'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Thanks. Item 13.3.2 is the Memorandum of Understanding with Veniali. I know we have a representation here, Mr. David Foster.
It is
Chelsea.
just adding David in now.
He's here.
It's
Yes,
just taking a little bit. Just give it another minute.
No worries. Hello, David. Hello, David.
Hello, James.
Yep, I can hear you, David. I just can't see you now. There you are.
I'm here.
Welcome to the Mansfield Shire Council December meeting. We're on agenda item number 13.3.2, which is the Memorandum of Understanding with Veniali. You've asked to represent to this item, so welcome. You've got 3 minutes to talk, and then if there's any questions after, councillors may ask.
Okay, thanks for the opportunity to speak to council. We thought after 17 years of the relationship with Veniali, it'd be a good time to reaffirm our friendship. And the original MOU was signed in May 2005 in Venelale with Mansfield's mayor, 2 other councillors, the community services manager and community representatives. So it was a big commitment by Mansfield Shire Council. And the relationship was initially driven by council, but Friends of Venelale became incorporated 7 years ago, and we still represent council in the friendship relationship. We also work with partner organisations such as schools, churches, medical clinics and the hospital in promoting and developing the relationship. We have a mirror organisation in Venelale and it's called Friends of Mansfield. And it liaises with the local government there. We currently employ a friendship liaison officer who's really a manager, an educational consultant who looks after our scholarships generally, and also a consultant in Dili. Friends of Venelale has monthly meetings, and the friendship liaison officer and the consultant can attend that by Zoom, which is a fantastic outcome of COVID, amazingly. We're very grateful that the council provides us an annual grant of $3,000, which contributes to the salaries of the people we employ. In the proposed new memorandum of understanding, there's some of the key words in the joint commitments of our local governments: mutual respect and friendship, and strengthening community to community relationships and transparent processes. And we propose that we'll continue to work together to respond to the aspirations and needs of people in Venelale, to complement the efforts that they're already putting in, and respecting the policies and programs of the Timor-Leste government and the priorities of the local government in Venelale, and to work within our respective capacities. We don't want to bite off more than we can chew. The Memorandum of Understanding doesn't specify the type of assistance because that can alter over time and according to needs and circumstances, but currently we support priorities in education, tourism, women's small business development and health. Friends of Venelale really encourages council to support this new agreement. It's really continuing to build on what we've been able to do since 2005. And if council does support it, the next step will be to take it to the local government in Venelale so that they can ratify it as well. We think it's been a fabulous relationship and we'd love it to continue. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Appreciate that. Councillors, do we have any questions? Councillor Rabi.
Yeah, thanks through you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, David, for coming along again, and to council. And I really enjoyed your group's interaction with us when we first became councillors to give us a briefing on the great work that you do. It is outstanding. I'm, so amazed at what you do. And it's not just a handout. I love that you help the people to help themselves. So I couldn't help just putting that in there, David. It's not a question, but thanks very much for your continued interaction with council. Thanks.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Thanks, councillor. It really is community to community, because we don't think of ideas and present it to them. They tell us what they need, and then we try and support them in whatever way we can. So I think it's getting it round the right way.
Thanks for that, David. Councillors, any other questions? Don't appear so. Okay. Well, thanks very much for your presentation, and we'll now take this agenda item a bit further. councillors. Do I have a motion in relation to this item? Councillor Rabi.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, just a matter of process. Could I ask questions of the author of the report or their representative?
You certainly can. Yes, that's a matter of process that I've skipped over. Yeah, I guess this would be Nola in your field. So, Councillor Sladden, ask away. Apologies.
That's okay. No worries, Mayor. Ms. Vales, the report, in your report, it outlines that the what we are voting on here is the Memorandum of Understanding between Mansfield Shire Council and the sub-district of Venalali, which is effectively their local government. But with the attachments and within the report, it refers to the existing MOU, Memorandum of Understanding between Council and the Friends of Venalali, which does have a financial impact, yet the report states that signing this does not have a financial impact. Now, while I understand that there is no financial impact in supporting the MOU with the sub-district, I think it's clear that we do need to make that distinction between those two separate MOUs. Could you just confirm that for me, please?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, that's my understanding. As obviously I'm representing the author here, and in the report it sort of distinguishes between the two different MOUs. One MOU between Mansfield Shire Council and the Friends of Venalali, sorry, excuse me, was signed in May 2021 and runs through to the 30th of June 2025. And then this MOU that we're doing the recommendation on now between Mansfield Shire Council and the sub-district, this is the one that doesn't have a financial impact. That's answering your question.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bales. Thank you, Mayor. I'm therefore prepared to move the motion if you want me to read it out.
Just 1 sec, Councillor Sladden. Councillor Rabi, I think, has got a question.
Yeah, well, I put my hand up to move the motion, so.
Oh, okay. You go. You go.
No, it's all right. But just to further to Councillor Sladden's question, Nola, within the MOU, it does clearly state, does it not, that this is not a legally binding contract. It's simply a recognition.
Well, I would have to actually go back and check that. I'm sorry that unless a CEO knows off the top of their head.
I'm having trouble hearing you, Nola. Sorry.
Sorry, I'll hold my microphone up a little bit. Is that a bit better? Yeah.
Not to me, but anyway.
Oh, okay.
I'm a bit deaf anyway.
I'm sorry. I would have to take that on notice.
I can. Sorry, I can. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I can answer that one, Nola. Yeah, absolutely correct. It does say that the agreement is intended to be a guide for our organisations and our communities, and that the agreement will not have any legal effect and may be terminated or varied as agreed. So, yeah, it's absolutely about working together in friendship and providing, reaffirming our friendship with the sub-district of Venalali.
Thank you.
Thanks, Madam CEO and Ms. Bales. Does that satisfy your question, Councillor Rabi?
Yeah. Can we go back to my moving the motion?
Yeah, I know that it seems like a century ago when I was reminded that I forgot to give opportunity for questions. So you did have your your hand up. So go ahead, Councillor Arabi, with your recommendation, with your motion, sorry.
Yeah, the motion that Council receive and endorse the Memorandum of Understanding between Mansfield Shire Council and the Sub-District Administration of Inali.
And could I have a seconder? Councillor Sladden, thank you. Councillor Arabi, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Further to my comments to David Foster is that I really enjoyed their report to Council at our Council briefing, and wholly endorse our MOU. I think it's very important that we have these relationships, and it's a democratic republic. They went through a terrible, terrible war over there, which I witnessed firsthand, and I'm very happy that that we're part of that and supporting David and his friends in Mansfield. Well done. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Rabi. Councillor Sladden, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Briefly, Mayor, this has been a 17-year relationship. Mansfield Shire Council was one of the first to recognise and enter into such an agreement. I know other councils followed and have other relationships with other parts of Timor-Leste. So yes, it's just fantastic that we are able to continue that relationship. So thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Councillor Sladden. Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? No. In that case, I'm going to put this motion to a vote, but I notice that Councillor Holcomb is not with us again. Hang on, something happened. He's completely gone now. Dropped off our screen. This is annoying.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we can record him as having left the meeting, and you still have a quorum if you want to proceed with the vote.
I think that might be a wise move, just so that we can move through a few procedural motions that we have after this, till we get to the confidential items, and hopefully he might be back in by then. All right. Well, note that Councillor Holcomb has left the meeting, but that we have a quorum. So the recommendation has been read by Councillor Rabi and seconded by Councillor Sladden. I'd ask those in favour of that motion to raise their hands. That being the motion is carried. Thank you, Mr. Foster, for your attendance. If you're still there and your presentation, I notice you've dropped off too. Item number 14 is the next one on the agenda. Yes, council meeting resolution action status register. Councillors, can I have a motion in relation to this? Councillor Webb.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Motion being that Council receive and note the Mansfield Shire Council meeting resolutions action status register as at 7th December 2022.
A second to that motion? Councillor Rabi. Councillor Webb used to speak to that motion?
No, thanks, Mr.
Councillor Rabi. Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? No. In that case, I'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? That motion is carried. Item number 15 is the Audit and Risk Committee meeting agenda and minutes. Councillors, can I have a motion in relation to that agenda item? Councillor Webb.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Motion being that Council receive the agenda and minutes of the Mansfield Shire Audit and Risk Committee meeting held 21st of November 2022.
Thanks, Councillor Webb. A seconder to that motion? Councillor Raby. Thanks, Councillor Raby. Councillor Webb, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Raby.
I'm doing the heavy lifting here, but no, thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Well, I'll put that motion to anyone else, sorry, like to speak to it? No, in that case, I'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favour of the motion? The motion is carried. Item number 17 is the closure of the meeting to members of the public. Can I have a motion, Councillor Webb?
Motion being that Council close the meeting to members of the public under Section 66(2)A of the Local Government Act 2020 to consider confidential reports in accordance with Section 66(2) of the Local Government Act 2020 for reasons set out in Section 18 below.
Thanks, Councillor Webb. A second to that motion, Councillor Sladden. All those in favour of the motion? The motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. We will now convene to the confidential part of this motion, leave the general public behind, and we will return in due course. Thank you. All right, we all seem to be back in the meeting room. We've got everyone. Yep. Welcome back, Councillor Rabi. So the agenda item number 20 is to close the meeting. This is the final meeting for 2022. And just a reminder to any of the general public that there's no council meeting in January. The next one is scheduled for February. So I'd like to thank all my fellow councillors and council staff for their attendance at these meetings throughout the year. It's been a great pleasure dealing with you all through the meetings. And I'd like to wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and look forward to seeing you all in the new year. Thank you very much. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.
All good.